अमेरिका में इंतखाबात चंद घंटे में खुलने वाले हैं और क्या सूरत हाल है, क्या हो सकता है, पॉसिबिलिटीज क्या हैं। दोनों कैंपेन्स लग तो रहा है कि बहुत कॉन्फिडेंट हैं, बट एक सेंस ऑफ ड्रेड भी मौजूद है क्योंकि इतने करीब जो लीडिंग इनटू इट जो पोल्स दिखा रहे थे, नेक एंड नेक चल रहा है, स्पेशली बैटल ग्राउंड स्टेट्स के अंदर। और कुछ भी मुमकिन है। इट ऑल कम्स डाउन टू टर्न आउट कि कौन कितने बंदे कहां कब निकाल सकता है अब अगले चंद घंटों के अंदर। इसको बेहतर समझने के लिए अमेरिका से एक और बार हमें ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं हमारे दोस्त मुंजिर नकवी, और ये हैं जॉर्जिया के अंदर, और ये एक बैटल ग्राउंड स्टेट है। तो ये हमें बताएंगे कि मुंजिर, बताएं कि क्या सेंटिमेंट है। बस चंद घंटे रहते हैं, क्या आपने अपना वोट डाल दिया है कि आप डालेंगे?
जी मैंने अभी डाल दिया वोट
यू ऑलरेडी बेसिकली
जॉर्जिया
कास्टेड
में
योर वोट?
G already casted my vote, and in Georgia here because we have 3 weeks of early voting, and it ended on this past Friday. And then the people who want to vote in person, they will get to vote on Tuesday. At least we have those flexibilities here in Georgia. I cannot say the same for other states like Pennsylvania, but in Georgia, there's a lot of opportunities. That's why you see a turnout for early voting higher in Georgia than you do in Pennsylvania. So far in Georgia, I would say I think about 4 million people have already early voted. And considering the last elections, about 5 million people voted overall in Georgia, that's a pretty significant early turnout. Whereas in Pennsylvania, I think the voting was at about almost 7 million votes, but only
Wow.
1.7 million have voted so far or in Pennsylvania early vote. But then there are different laws and regulations depending on the state. And I
It's between
likewise,
a rock and a hard place, isn't it?
yes, it is. It is.
Either way, things are going to get messy.
They are. They are. It's going to be interesting because no matter which side wins, the other side is not going to be happy, and there will be allegations of voter irregularities or voter fraud.
Yeah, it's a
Yes.
scary time, and given what's
Yes.
happening in Pakistan as well, um, at such a critical time where you
Yes.
now have a constitutionalized dictatorship, where
Yes.
you will have an army chief with the potential to be in power or in play for 10 years,
Yes. That's pretty concerning, and
up to
concerning
10
that it
years.
came up.
Five
Yes.
plus five, five
Right,
plus
five
five.
plus five. Exactly. And that's concerning because that means that, obviously a dictatorship, how they'll get to stay longer, potentially overseeing different elections and being in those different transition periods. But more importantly, we didn't see this coming until the 11th hour on the eve before the U.S. elections. So that sends a different signal that they're pretty concerned about what could happen in Washington and how there may be a change of power because of that. So,
Let me ask you
yeah,
something. Make us understand.
right,
They're so entrenched at this moment, like sure shot, like sweep on either side. There's no middle ground left.
right,
The Harris campaign is sure shot. We have the votes. We have these women coming out. We have it in the bag.
yes,
The Trump side is like 69%. Like,
yes,
we have it. It's just a question of the
yes,
landslide that we want to get.
right.
Have you seen this level of polarity or polarization in elections before?
I haven't seen this much polarization because I remember when Obama ran the first time in 2008, and there was such a strong support. There was a lot of at that time we started to see some divisions, and I think once President Obama or when Obama became president, that's when there was a lot of dissent, and that eventually led to what we thought was impossible at one time, but Trump becoming president. So even the day before the election day on 2016, everyone thought that Trump would win. I mean, not Trump would lose, but it was an easy fly for Hillary Clinton. But that didn't, as we saw in 2016, that did not happen. In 2024, now, pretty much, I would say that it is much more polarized than it was back even in 2016.
Tell me something, Munzir.
Yes.
There are doubts being played out that there'll be delays in election results. Like we might not get these results for days, maybe up to a week. So how does that play out? What's up? What's that about?
That could, I mean, that it will depend on if the election is a landslide or not. If it's not a landslide, then it could take maybe a day or two. But I think there'll be a lot of pressure by both parties to make the results quick. And for
what about the day after? What happens in either scenario on November 5th, or let's say at the end of this week?
Yes.
What kind of Americas do we see very quickly?
So my theory is that if Trump wins, it's going to be similar to something like 2016. There'll be people who will not be happy about the results, and there's concerns there may be protests. Either way, if Kamala wins, there may be protests, and if Trump wins, there may be protests. And so some people will not be happy, but I don't think that will be a major situation in terms of the next few days. I think either or, there'll be a certain side that'll be somber. They will not be happy about the results.
All right, Munzir, and we haven't even touched on the Muslim or the Arab vote. Very briefly. Go ahead.
So that's going to be a significant decider, and especially in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania. And I wouldn't even say Georgia, because the margin that Biden won Georgia by was 11,000. And I know that according to the Muslim Voter Project of the Georgia chapter, they said that 33,000 Muslim Americans have already voted. I know in 2020 that bloc voted, or I think that bloc voted overwhelmingly Biden, and I think this time they're not going to be voting overwhelmingly for President Biden, or not president, but for Kamala. So I do think so. Just to give you a little quick tidbit, in early voting, there apparently, according to the Georgia Muslim Voter Project, there are 100,000 likely Muslim voters in this election in the state of Georgia alone. And of that, 33,000, I think 32 or 33,000 have already early voted. So that's going to be a decider as well in Georgia. And Michigan specifically, that's where we are watching how much of the Arab and Muslim votes are going to impact the election, because last time in 2020, there were mostly Biden supporters. This time, that's not the case. The Arab American and the Muslim American population in Michigan is now, I would say, would be, I guess, anti-Biden or anti-establishment, or the Democratic establishment. I'm thinking that this time they're going to go the other way. And even though there's a margin of gap of 150,000 to make up, that's a pretty significant, the Arab population is pretty significant to where they can tilt the election one way or the other. And I think the Trump campaign has understood that. So they have made outreach to the communities in Michigan to own that. I know that one of his staffers visited the Detroit Islamic Center, and I know that he went to a place called there's a place near Dearborn, not in Dearborn, but where the mayor, who was Democratic, endorsed Trump. And then, so that's a pretty significant message that they're trying to say. And the fact that the Trump campaign is embracing that message to reach out to the Muslim voter, that speaks volumes from where they were even in 2020 or even in 2016. So it's going to be interesting. I do think that there's a popularity of Jill Stein. I think she has a very strong support from the Muslim American community, but at the same time, in the battleground states, I don't think she'll be much of a factor. in terms of helping Trump. In fact, that she may take away votes from Trump because those that were voting against Kamala, they have two choices, or they have several choices. They have Cornel West, they have another libertarian candidate, Chase Oliver. But I think for people who are anti-Kamala, that she could potentially take away votes from that segment of the population. So,
all right, Munzir, we'll come back to you and we'll keep following this process as it unfolds. Thank you again. Take care.
Thank you, Ali, for having me. Bye.
Munzir Naqvi there, joining us from Georgia and giving us basically his take. ये बता रहे थे हमें कि क्या हो रहा है अमेरिका में, क्या होने जा रहा है अगले कुछ घंटे में। एक बहुत ही एक्सटेंसिव प्रोसेस है और मुंजिर उस प्रोसेस का हिस्सा भी हैं, रहे भी हैं और ऑब्वियसली अब इसका जो आउटकम होगा उससे इफेक्ट भी होंगे मुंजिर नकवी भी और कई और पाकिस्तानी मुस्लिम अमेरिकन, क्रिश्चियन अमेरिकन, जूइश अमेरिकन, आप जो भी कह लें, हर कोई इस इलेक्शन से इफेक्ट होने वाला है या होगा। इस हफ्ते के एंड के अंदर आपको चीजें वाज़ेह हो नजर आना शुरू हो जाएंगी क्या हो रहा है। Do like, subscribe and share this content. अपना ख्याल रखिएगा and keep following Let Ali Show You for more updates. Allah Hafiz.